Welcome to the Illuminet podcast series. Illuminet is a business efficiency consultancy, specializing in transformative change, intelligent automation, and AI. In this series, we're exploring how rising employment costs are reshaping the need for workforce flexibility, a challenge many leaders are facing as cost pressures rise and organizational agility becomes more critical than ever. Today we are joined by Greg Wood, CEO of Illuminet, to discuss what this means for UK organizations and how they can respond with confidence. Greg, welcome. What are the headwinds for UK businesses?
Well, I think this sort of perpetual challenge for business is the ability to identify opportunity, the ability to mobilize capacity quickly, and the ability to deliver. I think the headwinds include at the moment in the UK rising employment costs and increased employment regulation and risk. And I think that the problem with both of those is they actually reduce the ability to mobilize quickly.
How will the ratio of contractor versus perm evolve?
Well, I think it's going to change quite dramatically. I think we're going to see probably a drop or less desire to hire big permanent teams, and organizations start to build ecosystems of suppliers and perhaps contractor capability that they can draw on quickly when they need to. I do think the challenge with that is going to be to pick the right suppliers that give you that flexibility and that certainty. And that's where I think we're going to see models shift across from what was perhaps more traditional permanent model.
What would be the components of a resourcing model to overcome market challenges?
There's several key components that you're going to look for in any sort of supplier or contractor model if you're going to want to draw on flexible resource. The first thing is really that they cover the bases that you need. So what skills do you need and when do you need them? Can your provider provide you with those? The next is the speed of which they can mobilize, frankly. You need certainty around that. If you're going to plan your projects and programs, you need to know when you can draw upon those resources and how quickly. And the last is cost, and I think this is the more difficult one. You want the cost fixed in advance so that you can decide whether those opportunities are worth going for, whether they're the right returns for you. You can only do that if you've got cost clarity and transparency.
Is there a market need to ramp resources down as well as up quickly?
Yeah, there definitely is a need to ramp down quickly. In fact, that's 50% of the equation. You need to have a service level agreement in place with your provider to ramp up so that you know you can deploy when you need to deploy. But you also don't know the future. So sometimes a project will fail or a project won't deliver, or actually that opportunity is complete. You've delivered. You want to then disband that team and move on without holding that cost. So you need that SLA to cover two parts. The first part is mobilization and the second part is sort of demobilization or ramping down.
What's Illuminet's answer to the market's resourcing challenges?
So look, the way Illuminet has built an offering in this space is to look at those problem statements and then think, how can we overcome that for our clients? So we start with sort of fixed cost and cost clarity. So what we do is agree a rate card that doesn't change, so the client can take that to the bank and plan around that. We agree an SLA with our clients, usually 5 days to mobilize skilled resource and deploy them. And then we look at how we shoulder some of that risk, because there's always a risk that with any deployment that you've got a person that or people that don't match your team ethics or your team fit, and you want to change them. We recognize that. So we provide something called a first impression guarantee. And what that means is that you get that first week. If for any reason you don't like the person that we've deployed, you get to change them, and that cost is on us. And the reason that is so important is that's what unlocks the fast mobilization. You don't need to do protracted interviews for people coming to join your team and deliver your projects. You can have some confidence that should there be an issue, that's your partner's going to deal with it. And the last thing is to ramp down. So usually we allow a 5-day SLA for ramping down the other side. So it gives absolute flexibility for our clients to quickly grasp an opportunity, deliver on it, and then release that cost without that residue of cost hanging over them.
So, is this just for outside IR35?
No, it's not. It's for both inside and outside IR35. Outside IR35, we deliver services through outcome-based statements of work, ensuring that we're fully compliant with all of the IR35 regulation. Obviously, it's much simpler for inside IR35, but what we can apply with VBaaS, our virtual bench as a service offering, is dealing with either all or one type of deployment or a hybrid. So some assignments may well be outside of IR35 and some inside. It doesn't matter. That's the flexibility we want to provide.
Is there a limit to the size and scale of Illuminet's VBaaS service?
That's an interesting question. So there's no bottom limit. So you can start small, even with just one resource. And that's the idea of it, really. We don't want a minimum commitment because we understand that would also create a barrier. And there isn't really a maximum size. So if you wanted to scale up to 20, 30, 40, then that's perfectly fine. And in fact, what we do is we actually recognize that and offer discounts for scale for our clients. So we want them to use us as their partner in that space.
Thank you for your insights, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.